emergency lighting and exit signs. Okay, so for today, we're actually going to talk about the wireless system, right? Just to run you through, I will also talk about the current systems and of course what the future of emergency lighting is. Alright, so at Denko, we are very excited about the future, and of course moving forward we need to always innovate to be one step further or one step ahead of our competitors. Okay, so for today, like I said, I'll just do a very brief introduction of the company. The current emergency lighting systems, which I term level 0, advanced emergency lighting systems level 1, and the wireless emergency lighting systems level 2. And lastly, what we are working on right now. Okay, so Denko, we are a company out of Singapore. We have been running for about almost 27 years now. Right? And our products are all compliant to the local standards. Our local testing body is TÜV PSB, and we are compliant to IEC standards. Of course, in the Middle East, our products are also certified with Dubai, the Fire Safety Bureau. Right? And of course, we have a full comprehensive portfolio which suits all your emergency lighting needs. So of course, other than Singapore, we do have also export to other countries, Middle East being one of them, Southeast Asia, some in India, some in Sri Lanka. Right? So this is a very standard our portfolio of exit signs, our recessed surface-mounted emergency lights, alright? What we call the Mickey Mouse or the twin emergency lights, and the battery packs, both for fluorescent as well as LED lighting. Okay, so now moving forward to the current emergency lighting systems, what we call level 0. So this is basically the least smart of all emergency lighting systems, right? So of course there are two types. One is a self-contained battery type. One is your central battery type, right? Every single thing is wired, right? This is a very traditional way of implementing an emergency lighting system, but it's also, I would say, very, very reliable. Okay, so the scenario here is that there is no monitoring and there is no self-test feature, right? So I'm sure you know that the battery life is approximately about 4 years, 4 to 5 years. The moment the project gets handed over, probably you're left with 3.5 to 3 years. So it's very important that the battery actually goes through a discharge test, right? So that you'll know that the battery health is still healthy. But most of the times the discharge test is not conducted. Let's say because the maintenance team has to go in, they have to close floor by floor to do a battery discharge test. So a battery discharge test basically, I switch off all the lightings on the entire floor and make sure that they are able to last the rated duration, the rated DC duration of say maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, and then I recharge everything again. Alright? So this method of maintenance is actually extremely labor intensive, right? If you want to test the function of whether the LED is working, you have to go to every single luminaire and press the test button one by one, right? And you also need to you're required to monitor it manually. So what happens if I test this one, maybe I have a pen and paper, I take my luminaire number 1, it's okay, luminaire number 2 is okay. So it's very, very manual. And also because it's the human people doing it physically, there's also a high risk of human error, right? And also it's very difficult to track. Okay, so moving on to level 1, which is very prevalent here in Dubai, right? You have a wired monitoring system. Once again, there's a self-contained version. There's also a central battery system, right? You have a monitoring panel that's of course connected to all your emergency luminaires. And the advantages of this is that you'll be able to conduct routine discharge tests, conduct routine functional tests, right? So you leave everything to the computer to do it. And of course, you also have a history log of maintenance information. So this is good because on both, it's a win-win situation for both the end user customer as well as for the Fire Safety Bureau, right? On one hand, it keeps the tenants of the building safer. They make sure that everything is in good working condition. On the other hand, the Fire Safety Bureau can also feel safe, that everything is according to the rated specifications. But of course, there are also disadvantages to this, right? There is a very high cost of implementation, right? Because if let's say the wired emergency lighting system, you have to run a lot of cables, correct? So in that sense, it's also only applicable to new projects, right? From where I come from, Singapore, I would say it's already 70-80% developed, right? So there is no new projects coming up. There are projects coming up, but there's not enough growth, right? So this section or this space of retrofit, upgrade, it's there, and this is one of the spaces that we can actually move into. So that is why I'll be talking about the wireless system later. Okay, and now level 2. So basically, the wireless monitoring system has the functions of a wired monitoring system, right? So the architecture is pretty much the same. Of course, you have your power coming in from your 230, but of course, when your luminaires are all Wi-Fi enabled or they can communicate wirelessly on a mesh network, they'll be able to feed and also receive information from both ways. And of course, from the server, you'll be able to put it out on the cloud. You can access it through your phone, you can access it through your tablet, your laptop, whatsoever. So the advantage here is that you don't have to run any additional cables, right? Of course, if let's say a building is already a wired system, or let's say it's a wired system, but it's not a monitoring system. There's no way they're going to dig up all the cables and rewire everything. So in this case, there's basically no running of cables, right? And of course, the ability to carry out the functions of a wired emergency lighting system is the same. And also, of course, because you're using, if you happen to use open source protocols, when you are able to integrate future products, maybe fire alarm, maybe your CCTV monitoring systems, maybe your HVAC, I'm not sure, but if you're on the same protocol, you can essentially start to integrate all these products together. That's why it is future-proof. Okay, so now, of course, on our side, we have not launched a full wireless emergency system yet, but we are in the R&D stage, and we're actually toying with a couple of different protocols. We have tried Zigbee out, we have tried Bluetooth out as well as Wi-Fi. So our prerogative is actually to find what is the most reliable system that we can use and to deploy in the market. Because we don't want to face a situation whereby, let's say in a controlled environment where we test 5, 10, 20 luminaires and it works perfectly fine. But when we install it in a 50-story building, everything starts to, problems start to arise, there's going to be an issue. So we have to be extra sure and extra confident in our solution before we actually release our product out into the market, both in Singapore as well as in the US. Yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm very happy to talk about. We can discuss some pointers. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention. Anything from you guys? Questions? No? All good? All right, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.